Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Carlos Gilbert and I'm a user experience designer based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about a graduation project I created while I was studying at Vancouver Film School's digital design program. I'm going to talk to you guys about my flow, some of the challenges that I faced, and what I learned. But as you may already know because of the title of this video, I'll be focusing more on prototyping aspects such as tools, flows, and some tips and tricks that I have for you guys. So getting started, as UX designers, we're constantly experimenting with different flows and tools. We're always trying to push the boundaries of what is possible with what we have. We know perfection doesn't exist, yet we keep trying to reach it, because that's part of our job and our nature. That being said, do not expect to find a new tool on this keynote that will fix your problems. Instead, expect to learn from some of my mistakes and discover your own options to create your own flow that will fit your needs. So, for my graduation project, I decided to create this app called Athena. And basically, Athena is targeted to high school students that are about to graduate. And it allows them to discover, find, and pursue the best education possible out there. It allows them to discover what is a career they will enjoy doing the most. And it allows them to find a school that will have that program. So they can filter the school by budget, locations, and expectations, and get in touch with the school. At that time, I decided to use Adobe Illustrator as my primary wireframing tool. And the main reason why is because how comfortable I felt using it, and also because how fluid it is and it doesn't compromise any quality. You may also notice on my wireframes, I decided to create my own template, and each wireframe is divided into sections, and each section has their own color, so that it's easier for my fellow developers and myself to go through it. Also, I added some red flags as indicators that something is wrong, missing, or not finished yet, and it will need some further attention. Now, when it came to designing my app, I decided to use Adobe Photoshop. And honestly guys, you have no idea how much I regret it. Photoshop is a really heavy tool. And when I first started designing my app, everything seemed pretty fluid and not bad at all. But projects can grow insanely fast, and it got to the point where not even my new MacBook Pro was able to handle it. Everything started to get laggy, and by the end of the day, I ended up with hundreds of layers and folders and subfolders. I was extremely organized with my layers, hoping to be more productive and save time. But by the end of the day, that was not even possible because how heavy Photoshop is. I had to close all my browsers and other tools just so that my computer was able to run Photoshop. But still, it was taking more than 86% of my RAM. The design flow to create a prototype with Adobe Photoshop, it's also really tedious. And it's really time consuming. If you decide to use Adobe Photoshop and then you would like to prototype it, your flow may look something more or less like this. Designing Photoshop, save, jump to Illustrator, save, jump to Photoshop, tweak, save, export, export as, jump to prototyping tool of your choice. In this case, I'm just going to mention InVision because it's one of the best well-known. Import, prototype, go back to Photoshop, tweak, save, jump to Illustrator, save, jump to prototyping tool of your choice, and the list goes on and on, guys. You can see how this is really time consuming, and going back and forward is not the best option. You really want to try to avoid this so that you can save time and money. One more thing that I would like to add to this is that some of you guys may ask or say, well, what about wireframing with Photoshop? And the thing is that once you open Photoshop, expectations for design will rise most of the time. And you really want to try to avoid this so that you can focus on one thing, on one task that you have to do. In conclusion, Photoshop is a huge time-consuming machine and should not be used for designing prototypes. I found this online article that basically explains how today designers are in favor of tools like Sketch and Illustrator in comparison to Balsamiq and OmniGraffle. And I wanted to point this out because personally, I don't agree. And the main reason why is because from my own personal experience, I have noticed that I'm way more productive when I work in a specific environment depending on what is needed to be done. If I need to do wireframes, I'll do them in tools like OmniGraffle. And when I need to do design, I will use tools like Sketch and Illustrator. When I made my wireframes for Athena on Illustrator, I couldn't hold myself. And every once in a while, I started messing around with colors, icons, and design in general. For me, that was a waste of time because that wasn't supposed to be what I had to be working on. And if I were to go back, I will not use Illustrator for wireframing. But now let's start talking about prototyping. So these are 3 of my favorite rapid prototyping tools. And what these allow you to do is to take your ideas out of your head as quick as possible so you can test them, discard them, or improve from them. The way Marvel and Pop work is that you can take pictures of your wireframes with your smartphone or use JPEGs and PNGs so you can quickly prototype them and test your ideas and flows. They are both available for iOS and Android, and also for Mac and PC. Now, Adobe Comp is a bit different. And instead of prototyping, what it allows you to do is to quick and easily, if you don't have any paper around, to create some sort of wireframes with placeholders. You can use a format template and start your designs with measures. You can add some grids and easily send your designs into Adobe Muse, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, or export them as PDFs and images. Now, what is hot this year when it comes to prototyping tools and what the industry and designers are using? Well, tools like Axure, Sketch, Principle, InVision, Flinto, Framer, Pixit, and more are just some of the few many options out there. And what I have to say about this is that each one of them have something that makes them special. But the truth is, none of them have the full package. And what I mean by that is that there's not going to be a tool out there that will do all the fancy interactions or specific things that you're looking for. Sometimes you have to combine different tools and methods to achieve whatever is your vision of the app. Nevertheless, here are just some of the few I recommend worth checking out. But remember, by the end of the day, none of them have the full package. Except of course for HTML, CSS, and code by itself of course. And the reason why is because there's no limit of what you can or cannot do. Your limit with code is pretty much your imagination and how much you know coding. But like everything else, CSS and code has their own downside. It can be time consuming, and if you're only trying to explain an interaction or showcase your idea, you probably will not want to spend too much time on the idea before approval. Now here you can see a design flow example I have created, where you can notice what tools are being used by the industry for each individual task. You can see which tools are being used for wireframing, designing, and prototyping. But of course, the winner is always going to be code. And that's because that's always the final deliverable to actually create a final functional product. Now, when it comes to design flows, here are 3 examples of thousands out there. And this is something that can really change depending on who you're working for. The one on the top is the one that I'm currently using. And you can see how it goes from paper to rapid prototyping, then wireframing, and then designing. But then some designers will start right away with their wireframes, like you can see in the second flow. And then in the third flow, I found out this is a really popular practice between freelancers, and they will start and jump right away from wireframing directly into coding. And in some cases, they will not even wireframe. Instead, they will just start coding from the beginning to the end. And this is not a good practice because there's nothing easier than doing it on paper. Having the foundation of whatever is it that you're building. Having the blueprint so that once you start building, you don't have to go back and take away whatever was there in the first place. Now, I created this sort of chart where you can see how each individual tool focuses on different areas. The ones that are completely in their circle are the ones focusing on that area. And the ones overlapping are tools that either designers are trying to use for different purposes, or they are tools trying to be multi-purposes, like in the case of Photoshop, which tragically fails to do so. The ones that are in the middle are the ones that can be used in some way for those 3 purposes, but still, they aren't fully designed or meant to be used that way. Now, my definitely go tools that I'm currently using are definitely Pop, OmniGraffle, Sketch, Illustrator, and Axure. But I really love Sketch, and this is a fairly new tool that designers are adopting pretty quickly. It combines the power of vectors and the smoothness of Illustrator, the idea of smart objects from Photoshop, which is called symbols in Sketch, and some interface similarities with OmniGraffle. Please take in mind Sketch is not trying to replace Illustrator, Photoshop, or OmniGraffle. Sketch is mainly a designing tool. Like OmniGraffle is for wireframes, Sketch is for designing. Lastly, there's this thing called Craft and it's designed by InVision Labs. And this is an amazing free plugin both available for Sketch and Photoshop that saves designers tons of time. It's a tool that allows to quick and easily replicate design patterns, metadata to fill your designs, like generating username, emails, countries, addresses, and so much more. I'm going to add the link down in the description so you can see how the plugin works, and also I'm going to add the link where you can download it. And my next video is going to be a video tutorial about Sketch and how to use Craft. Nevertheless, I hope this video was somewhat helpful. If you like it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and follow me on any of these social media platforms because I'll be posting a lot more content. Thank you.